bus was crowded that morning, filled with chatter, laughter, and the occasional sound of sneakers scuffing against the floor. But amid the noise sat Emily, a quiet girl who always kept to herself. Her small frame pressed against the window, her backpack hugged tightly in her lap, as though it could shield her from the cruel world that waited for her every day. She had learned early on that silence was safer than speaking, but even silence wasn't enough to escape the attention of bullies. 3 older boys loomed at the back of the bus. They weren't loud at first, only whispering and laughing, throwing glances her way. Emily felt the tension crawl up her spine. She had experienced this before, the taunts, the jabs, the cruel remarks, but today it would cross a line she hadn't expected. One of the boys slid into the seat beside her, blocking her in, while another leaned over the back of her seat. The third moved closer from the aisle. She was trapped. "Why do you always sit alone, freak?" one of them sneered, his hand snatching at her backpack. Emily's grip tightened, her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Silence was her shield, but shields break. The boy beside her suddenly grabbed her by the neck, squeezing just enough to make her gasp. "Answer me when I talk to you." His voice was venomous, loud enough for others on the bus to hear, but no one moved. Most kids turned their eyes away, too afraid to intervene. Emily's world froze. Panic flooded her chest, her breath shallow, her eyes darting helplessly toward the front of the bus. But what the bullies didn't know, what not a single student suspected, was that sitting just 3 rows away was her father. Dressed in plain clothes, he looked like any other parent, but his presence was anything but ordinary. David wasn't just a dad, he was a member of SWAT, a man trained for high-risk rescues, tactical missions, and moments when lives hung by a thread. Yet nothing had prepared him for the sight of his little girl being choked in plain view of her classmates. The moment stretched thin, like glass about to shatter. Emily's eyes met her father's. Relief flickered in them, but also shame, as if she didn't want him to see her like this, weak, powerless. That was the breaking point for David. He stood, the bus grew silent. His steps echoed like thunder as he moved down the aisle. The bullies noticed too late. "Let go of my daughter." His voice was low, dangerous, carrying a weight that silenced even the bravest hearts. The boy's hand fell from Emily's neck instantly. The others shrank back, their bravado crumbling under the steel in David's eyes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His mere presence pressed down on them harder than any physical force. But instead of dragging them by their collars or shouting threats, David did something unexpected. He crouched so his eyes met theirs, his tone steady but sharp as a blade. "You think it's strength to pick on someone smaller than you, to gang up on a girl who never hurt you?" His gaze shifted to Emily, then back at them. "Real strength is protecting those who can't fight back, but right now, you've proven you don't know the first thing about strength." The bus driver, who had been watching nervously in the mirror, finally pulled over. Parents were called. The school would hear about it. Consequences were coming for those boys, but that wasn't what lingered in the air. What lingered was the image of a father standing tall for his daughter, unshaken, unafraid. That night, Emily sat quietly at the kitchen table. She stirred her cocoa absent-mindedly, her throat still sore, though it was her heart that hurt more. She hated feeling weak, hated that she had frozen, but her father placed a hand over hers. "You're stronger than you think, Emily," he said softly. "It's not weakness to be quiet. It's not weakness to avoid fights. But there comes a time when silence won't protect you, and when that happens, you have to find your voice." Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded. For the first time, she believed him. The next day at school, whispers followed her. Everyone had seen what happened. Everyone knew now who her dad was. The bullies walked with lowered heads, avoiding her eyes. But Emily wasn't thinking about revenge or fear anymore. She thought about what her father said, that real strength wasn't about fists or intimidation. It was about courage, about choosing kindness even when the world wasn't kind to you. Weeks later, when Emily noticed another shy student being teased in the cafeteria, something inside her shifted. She stood up, walked over, and placed herself between the bullies and the boy. Her voice shook, but it was steady enough. "Leave him alone." They did, not because of her father, not because of fear, but because Emily, once silent and small, had finally found her strength. Sometimes it takes a moment of pain to discover courage. Sometimes it takes a protector to remind us we are capable of standing tall. And sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest echoes when they finally rise.